Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com. We'll pull the story up and we'll jump in.
Sorry about that.
Here we go. From timcast.com. Intelligence official, quote, Russia has already won. White House media are lying about Ukraine. The explosive claim was made in the latest bombshell report published on September 21st by Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter Seymour Hersh, who spoke with an official who has access to current intelligence about the conflict. The war is over. Russia's won. I read that quote already. According to Hersh's report, the war is continuing because Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky insists that it must. Currently, there is no discussion at Zelensky's headquarters or at the White House about a ceasefire and no interest in discussions that could lead to an end of the conflict. So I suppose we could just say right now, Seymour Hersh is wrong and his source is bad. But I'm curious what you guys think about what's currently going on and where we are with Ukraine. And you were going to make a point before I interrupted you about the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, the reason why, I'm going to see him Hersh in a second, but the reason why he's using the language of climate change and the reason why they now have a trans person as a military spokesperson.
That's going well for him.
He was put on leave.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he stole somebody's luggage?
No, he said that everyone who spoke out against the government needed to be jailed.
And then they went and arrested Gonzalo Lira and have been, Gonzalo reported, torturing him.
Yeah, they were threatening that anyone that spoke poorly of Ukraine would be facing like justice. And it's like, well, are you threatening U.S. citizens that spoke out against Ukraine? And so that person
they're
was put on
torturing
leave.
one right now.
So a couple days ago, they were put on leave. I don't know much more about it. That's what I heard. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm just saying that they know that they are, look, where's their bread buttered? It's Biden administration.
Yep.
All he hears Biden saying is climate change. So, hey, hell, why don't I make climate change the issue here and I'll get even more support.
It's really lowbrow. A really pathetic attempt to manipulate.
I'm very concerned about
it may be
carbon
pathetic, but I think it works. I think the left looks at that and go, oh, he's for climate change.
It's a signal. What he's saying to the elite left is, I'm willing to read the script. It's a signal to them that I'm your boy. I'll read this. What? Climate change, trans. What's the next thing you guys need? Just keep the money flowing. These are all signals for that explicit purpose. And I'm not going to get into like who's winning or losing the war because I'm on the Armed Services Committee and don't want to reflect on anything classified. But I think we can look at Afghanistan and we can look at what's going on here and say what a lot of these defense contractors are pushing toward is how to have an extended kind of low yield war. Like if there's a way to stretch this thing out, turn it into a 20, 30 year kind of thing where there's a whole lot of money moving around and unaccountable pots and a lot of weapons getting bought. And then, oh man, the stockpiles, well, we got to spend more money to reload those. I think that the reason we are as involved in Ukraine as we are is because Afghanistan wound down. And if we still had Afghanistan to launder money through, there probably wouldn't be the need for this type of excessive involvement in Ukraine.
Dude, I would love to alter our weapons program to create just a drone defense program where we go up into space in low orbit and we just build billions of drones that we blow up and we give the defense companies all this money, even more money than they're making now, to blow up machines instead of humans. And then we could work with Russia.
That rant from Ian Crossland was brought to you by Raytheon.
Let me take my jacket off. 'Cause I know we're going 2-on-1 here, and I'm good.
2-on-1?
Yeah, I know it's going to be both of you against me. That's fine.
What about him?
3-on-1.
I'm an innocent sideliner. What are you thinking?
Well, the idea that we would just give money to the military-industrial complex to appease them, to abate them because they do bad things.
It's kind of like it's a parasite in my brain that I don't know how to get rid of without killing myself. So I don't want to kill myself. And I admit that military is a big part of the ethos of the United States. I mean, we're a militaristic country.
Hey, just keep the tumor in your foot. Keep it away from your pancreas.
I just want to remind you the language you're using, and look, it's okay, but it's the language of the left, right? The left has always been the ones talking about the military-industrial complex, and that's what runs our country. And I'm not saying
it's
you're
the one
wrong.
thing they were right about.
I'm not saying you can't say it just because they say it.
That great leftist thinker Dwight D. Eisenhower.
But I think I think the left 10, 13 years ago was right about a whole lot. They supported Julian Assange. Now all of a sudden they're in line with Amazon, Walmart, and major corporations.
They used to be for free speech.
And they oppose government surveillance. Yeah. And now they're in favor of censorship. Yeah, it's
the military used to be racist. Now they're for NATO expansion.
They used to be opposed to defunding the police, then all of a sudden started using that against Republicans.
I drank with Julian Assange while I was under house arrest in London.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what did you drink?
Scotch.
Okay. What else do you drink? Come on.
Single malt?
Come on, dude.
Blended?
What am I, a troglodyte? Of course it was single malt.
Okay, just checking.
I look at this report. It's funny that Timcast just published this. It's I believe Adrian Norman was reporting on it, because I said this a little while ago, and we were talking downstairs before the show. I was talking to Ami, and I said, so we have this map from the BBC, and you can look at February 2022. You've got separatist-backed Donbass, and then you have Crimea under Russian control. And then by June 2023, Russia controls the entire land bridge into Crimea. And so they won. They seized the territory they wanted to gain control and more access to their warm water port in the Black Sea and their access to the Mediterranean.
All right, so first of all, Seymour Hersh is not a credible source, right? I mean, sometimes something he says is credible.
You don't buy the Bin Laden Seymour Hersh story?
No.
Okay. Not an argument, though.
So
I could say,
no, I understand.
The New York Times insert all the wrong things, everything that was wrong about all the military stuff. But I agree with you. We don't have to just blindly agree this story is true.
So I only look at this through the prism of what's good for the United States, ultimately, right? What is good what is in our national interest? It is in our national interest to continue to degrade the Russian military. Taking Russia off the geopolitical board, which is what we are in the process of doing, and taking them off that board for 25 or 30 years is in our national interest. To destroy them economically by losing their entire European access to the gas market is in our economic interest. And even more than that, what's really in our interest? Taking Taiwan off the table in terms of a Chinese invasion. And I'm telling you, this is what we've done. China has looked at Ukraine, understanding it is not in the U.S. national interest anywhere close to what Taiwan is. And we went to bat for Ukraine. They understand that if they invade Taiwan, they are screwed. They will not invade Taiwan for the next 25 years.
They technically did several, but like we're talking about land invasion, because 4 days ago, we've had Jerusalem Post saying China invades Taiwanese airspace with 20 military aircraft. A week before that, there was something like 60 different ships.
They're flying sorties over Taiwan all the time.
Right.
So that answer would absolutely get an A at the Georgetown School of Foreign Service. Right. That is the answer that we hear most frequently. So I want to take some of those arguments. First, that we have to take Russia off the geopolitical landscape. So since the invasion, they have actually got more relationships in Africa, not less. Putin just hosted this big African summit where they all came to Moscow, and he was able to make even more audacious claims of support and grain. And by taking Ukraine out of the distribution of some of that grain, he's stepping in to fill it. So in a way, the war in Ukraine is allowing him to project more power in Africa.
May I
Please.
Who that's the argument? Who cares?
By the way, I care way more about the essential elements and the rare earth elements that drive the entire global economy that exists in Africa than I care about some oil rigs in the Donbass region.
The rare earth elements aren't rare. We can mine them,
and they're in Alaska.
They can mine them here, but
we
won't
because
of Biden. But what's
more geopolitically important, the Donbass or Africa?
What do I care more? It's not about Donbass. What do I care more about Africa? We have driven Sweden and Norway into NATO, which they didn't do for decades and decades. That's what we've done.
Lovely. We've extended the security guarantee to two more countries. Two more
very stable countries who, by the way, are in absolute interest to defend. By the way, I am not for Ukraine being part of NATO. I'm not for Ukraine being part of the EU for those reasons. I do not want to have I don't want a U.S. troop in Ukraine, and I wouldn't support anything that would contractually obligate us to do that. But for Sweden, Norway, to have them come into NATO is a huge win for us.
Because there are two more countries that now are protectorates of the United States?
There are two more people that have armies that can support.
Well, let's see when they actually meet the requirements on their military spending and
by the way, this has also helped put. Yeah, look, I agree completely. I think it is an embarrassment that they haven't, and I think we should. And I think I'm glad. And by the way, they increased their spending because of Trump. Trump pushed them to increase their spending because he said we'll pull out, and they said whoa. But by the way, they have spent more money on Ukraine than we have. I'm glad that at least.
Sweden and Norway have spent more money on Ukraine than we have?
All of Europe.
Okay, well, since Ukraine's in Europe, it seems reasonable.
Okay, but I'm saying is we have now found a way to get them to spend more money on the military. And I think they realized that
all it cost us was $118 billion?
That's you know what?
Is that all it is so far? 118? I thought it was more.
That's what we got on paper.
Yeah, I mean, seems like a lot to me. I also want to address the Taiwan argument because I think the major geopolitical objective we ought to have is to stop a fusion of China and Russia. The Sino-Russian alliance poses a greater threat to us than almost anything. And through our involvement in this war, we have driven Russia into the arms of China. You look at a lot of the farmland in eastern Russia, it is getting literally bought by the Chinese. You're seeing a leveraged buyout of Russia through China that is making them stronger. And I don't think that she views Donbass and Ukraine as in any way like comparable tactically to the home game that they get to play in Taiwan. I mean, it's not a surprise to anyone that when we war game out a Taiwan conflict, China wins every time. Why? Because our F-35s don't get into the fight. Our littoral combat ship gets blown up before they even get there, and we run out of torpedoes. That's what happens in every war game. And I don't know that type of a like maritime amphibious assault is comparable to Putin running some broken tanks into Ukraine. And when it comes to degrading the Russian military, I worry more about Russia's nuclear weapons than I worry about what tanks and armored divisions they have rolling around the plains of Europe.
Agreed.
I don't think
I don't
my constituents are fundamentally impacted based on which guy in a tracksuit is in charge of Crimea. Yeah, I do think they're impacted if we are like poking the nuclear bear.
I do believe that it is well within the capabilities of Putin to use nuclear weapons. I am not saying MIRVs or the Satan II missile they call it. I'm talking about 100 kiloton nuclear artillery, things like that being launched into battlefield areas.
Why do you take the MIRVing armaments off the table so?
Oh, I'm not.
Easily?
I'm saying the first thing we should be concerned about is in the active theater in eastern Ukraine.
A false flag.
No, I'm saying don't. Yes, that's a big factor as well. But honestly, there's a good argument to be made that it is more reasonable that Ukraine would false flag a nuclear strike to blame Russia. But there's also very good reasons for Russia if they want to expand their territory beyond just the land bridge.
Why do you think they would do that?
Why would Russia use?
No. What you think? I mean, look, I'm not. I don't know. I'm not in the mind of the Ukrainians.
Oh, I'll give you. It's really simple. If you're Ukrainian, if you were Zelensky, do you want to lose the war? No, of course not. Do you? Are you? In what position are you right now? Well, as you already pointed out, you're actively trying to convince Americans to keep footing the bill, and Republicans are off the table, so you're playing the Democrat game.
Well, not Republicans in Congress.
Well, sure.
They're the lagging indicator.
You know that the American population and the way the MAGA base operates, that you're not going to be pandering to them, although they probably should be. So let's think about what it means to actually win a war. Does it make sense if you are, say, like there's feudal lords warring in Japan, and they're like, I got to take out my rival. Let's walk to his front gates and then fight his guards. Or does it make more sense to have a ninja dressed like a maiden or a servant go in the middle of the night, take out the emperor, and then flee by running out the back door? Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.